Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Dear friends, today in this session we are going to continue further in our series on business ethics and CSR. Dear friends, CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. This is the topic on which we have conducted one session already and taking your concerns as well as requests into account. And as per the content of the topic, here we are again to discuss more on corporate social responsibility. Friends, we are going to talk today on principles for providing social code of conduct as well as principles of corporate social responsibility, and will also try to cover the various models of CSR, that is corporate social responsibility. Friends, for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is principal in Sri Aurobindo Evening College, University of Delhi. Dr. Rajput is a prolific professor as well as a writer. Through her, we always get in-depth knowledge on various topics and issues of commerce. So friends, let's take advantages from her experiences and let's try to gain more through her. We know that you have lots of questions in mind, as well as you would be discovering a lot during this session too. So friends, if you wish to ask questions from Dr. Namita Rajput on today's topic, do call us to our toll-free number. Our number is 1-800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1-800-110-430. All dear friends are requested to call in the last 10 minutes of the lecture only, as well as you are requested to ask questions relevant to the topic only. Now I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Rajput, once again. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Good morning friends. In the last session we talked about the CSR. Today we are going to extend the lecture, and let me give you a recap of what CSR is all about and how we are going to take it forward. The corporate social responsibility, as the name suggests, it is the prime responsibility of the corporate houses to take care of the society at large and giving back to society. It is not because of the the concept that they are earning. Because of the society only you are having captured the market as well, and you are earning. So it is your prime responsibility to take care of the sustainable aspect for the society, and this very concept is called as CSR. Basically, when the corporate houses are there to justify the existence of your present corporate house, it is your prime responsibility to take care of all the stakeholders who are associated with your business. So social responsibility is an important feature of every business in the modern contemporary world of today. Economic criteria, that is to earn profits, cannot justify your existence. You have to have a social, moral and ethical aspects of the business. They are very important to judge the success of the business. A socially responsible firm not only meets the need of society to enhance its goodwill, but also for the long-term and sustainable market, and is viewed, the profit making is not viewed as a sole aim of the business. You have to take care of the various stakeholders and the prime responsibilities of the corporate houses at large. It refers to basically the various actions which the corporate houses have to take to improve the welfare of the society at large, and of course relating to its owners. The CSR is a continuing commitment of the business to behave ethically and contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce and their families, as well as of the local community and the society at large. CSR is basically a prime concern of all the business houses of today. Whatever operations you are into, whatever things you are into, you have to see the darker side of it also, that whether you are not causing any kind of a concern, a negative concern for the society. So you must stop that. And not only this, nowadays basically the environmental concerns are of primarily important. Why? Because we do not have any planet B. We have to take care of the mother earth. So whatever the industrial production you do, or whatever business processes you do, you should not be taking care of this aspect. You should be taking care of this aspect, that the overall outcomes of your business is not going to jeopardize the interest of the society at large. The mission of the corporate social responsibility, that is the SRO, that is the influence the process of developing and advocating the social responsible business practices, which not only believes the corporate social organization, its employees, but also a greater community and economy and the world at large. Now this is one conviction of the business of today, is what? We are not taking care of the society at a micro level. We will be taking care of the society at large, that is at the macro level. That is, you cannot take the business as one unit. The business is a part of the supra system, and supra system is an environment of the whole system and the entire, the environment, and we consider Vasudeva Kutumbu, that is the whole world is our family. That means what? We have to take care of the society at large, and whosoever is there in the society, we have to take the primary concern for them, whether it is health or it is environment or anything else which is because of your business. So that is SRO, that is socially responsible organizations. They have to reshape their business, they have to revisit their concerns, they have to reframe their objectives. And this is the prime concern of the social corporate responsible organizations of today. You mark my words here, that any organization which is socially responsible, that is the SRO, socially responsible organizations, number one, they have to take the concern of themselves, that is, you cannot just ignore the economic parameters, you have to earn the profits to a sustainable extent. This is one thing. Number two, you have to take care of the various stakeholders who are associated and linked with your business. This is number two. And three, you have to see the outcomes of your business practices and the manufacturing process, that whether any kind of this kind of a thing is not resulting in any kind of a damage to the environment, or kindly you have to see the overall practices of the business organizations, that it is going to benefit the society at large, because we take the Vasudeva Kutum, that is the whole world is your family. So the CSR, that is the corporate social responsibility of a socially responsible organizations, they seek to reshape their business. Who are number one, they cannot just do the business which is against the society. They have to reframe their objectives, they have to reframe their ends, they have to make every stakeholder happy. So this is the prime concern of a SRO, that is a socially responsible organization, that you have to reshape, reorganize, reframe the objectives in consent with or in consonance with the objectives of the society at large. Now, taking it further, what is to be socially responsible? This is you have to define this world at various levels. You have to at least follow some minimum standards. You have to behave in a very socially responsible manner. Similarly, you have a social performance wherein the benefits or the outcomes of your business processes are taken care of, and how they are being impacted, how you are impacting with your business processes to the various society sections at large. It should be definitely positive. Only then we will endorse your existence into the business, and you can be a good player in the market. If not, then of course you have to shut your shops, you have to close your business. Now, taking it further, the standards, the minimum standards for the social performance is one thing. That is, these standards represent an initial step in the full development of SRO. The minimum standards are intended to be very specific. You have to document it. You have to measure it. Unless and until you have these things with you, how can you justify your existence? So number one, you have to perform in a very socially ethical, moral manner. Number two, you have to perform, that is the social performance should be at par excellence. Number three, you have to be very specific in your performance, you have to document your things, and lastly, you have to measure it. There are certain measures which cannot be ignored, because unless and until there is some measure, like for example, the students are appearing in the exams, so they are having some yardsticks and measurable content wherein we judge whether the student is intelligent, partially intelligent, or only average student. Similarly, to measure the social performance, we must have certain measures for the socially responsible organizations, and some yardsticks must be there wherein we can judge whether the organization is socially responsible or not. They are also achievable and the meaningful in terms of impacts of communities, employees, environmental and economic systems. The standards are not about getting passing or failing grades, but the assessment tools of SRO is the current level of commitment to CSR. Now, one thing which is distinct as far as the socially responsible organizations are concerned, that it is not about just the passing or the failing or just having the existence of these kind of rules in your organization, that is the socially responsible practices, but yes, you have to have certain level of commitment which shows and inbuilt in the culture of the organization, in the culture of your business. It should be baked in your business practices that whatever you do, the first question you will ask yourself that it is not going to damage the society at large, it is not going to damage the environment, it is not in against the interest of the various stakeholders of the business. If the answer is yes, move on. If the answer is no, you have to stop your practices there and then again you have to reshape, revisit and reorganize your objectives in terms of to strive the social commitments, the social performance of the organizations. So this is what you have to keep in mind if you want to be an SRO, that is the socially responsible organizations. Now the standard assist, if whatever are the standards in the organizations are there, they definitely assist you in measuring and achieving the measurable goals and the improvement and the form of the foundation for reporting all direct the stakeholders. The dimensions which are covered by the minimum standards incorporate the concept of community involvement, diversity, employee relationship, environment, international relationship, marketplace, practices, fiscal responsibility and accountability. Now one thing you have to keep in mind, that when the goals are measurable, it is something you have to speak about yourself, that you are doing something for the society at large. So these measurable things must be there, they should be crystal clear, understandable to all stakeholders, and of course your reporting should be such that every stakeholder who is linked and associated with your business should be very clear that yes, this organization is doing something for us. So the documentation, the measurable part, the reporting practices should be very, very crystal clear, which is understood by the stakeholders, by the society at large. Only then can the success of the business will be there, otherwise you will be in trouble, because nowadays if the organizations are not taking care of the ethical, moral, social practices into account, then the future of that organization is really dark. And it is not so that we are theoretically speaking. There are so many success stories, there are so many empirical evidences to this effect. Now coming on to the dimensions. The dimensions which are covered by the minimum standards incorporate the concept of community involvement, diversity, employee relationship, international relationship, market practices, fiscal responsibility and accountability. Now the CSR standards framed by the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights also emphasize on the CSR in the areas of human rights, which is in compliance with the fundamental rights of the freedom, justice and peace. The labor, that is right to collective bargaining, ban on forced and child labor, environment, protection of environment, consumer protection, respect to consumer values, comply with the legal standards, give them the right to choose and to be heard, the health, that is ensuring the access to health facilities to all, minimum of food, shelter, sanitation, safe drinking water, adopt a measure for preventing ill health, provide education to community at large. Now coming on to the standards again. Now there is an organization which is a CSR standards. They have framed certain parameters, they have demarcated certain areas wherein if the corporate invest, we call it as a corporate social responsibility prime practices. Here not only this, your practices should be in compliance with this. For example, we are taking care of the human rights as far as their freedom, justice and peace is concerned. So all the three parameters are covered as far as the CSR practices are concerned. Like for example, they should, when you fix the wages for the labor, there should be a collective bargaining in terms of fixing their labor, because the parameters and the perspective from the management is different, and the perspectives and the parameters and paradigms from the labor point of view is different. So when you sit across and when you bargain, it is very important to fix the wages wherein it suits both the sections, because they are conflicting in nature, because the management wants to optimize on the cost and the labor wants to have the maximum wages. So that is why we should have a collective bargaining, the representation of each section, and of course then you will be able to achieve the social justice. There is no problem as far as the freedom is concerned. You are giving a right to speech to them, you are making their the wages more socially enriched, which is having justice into it. So just you should ban the child labor for that matter, because child labor is a kind of an offence which is having a criminal liability. And of course, if the child they are not even having the basics of life, you should report it to the government of India. And so many schemes are running, so wherein that child can be given a skill training, and he can be helped in his studies and academics, and when he attains the 18 years of age, then he can join the workforce. So you should try and be a very responsible citizens of not saving your money by including the child labor. So you should say no to child labor. You should fix your wages in consonance and in compliance with the representation of the labor unions, so that they do not have any kind of hitch in mind that their interest is not being watched. Not only this, you should work for the health of the organizations. You should give the entire access to health facilities to all, the minimum food, shelter, sanitation, safe drinking water, and of course you should adopt certain ways and means wherein the education can also be covered, because education is the only tool wherein lot of problems can be solved, because you become economically independent, because you are educated, you are having the required qualifications to be a part of any kind of a workforce. So empower the society. Now coming on to the nature of corporate social responsibility. The nature of the CSR can be understood as follows. Focus on the business firms. Both business and non-business organizations should be responsible towards society, and the focus should be on the business firms to look after the social interest. Deals with the moral issues. The companies have specific policies and programs to look after the interest of the employees, stakeholders, and of course taking into consideration the just and the right for the society at large. It should also commensurate with the objective of profit maximization. Any kind of social goals are discharged by the organizations if you are economically sound. So you just cannot ignore the economical aspect or the economic aspect of the business at large. Then of course it is a continuing activity, it is not a one time activity. You have to continuously strive to watch the interest of the people at large. Now coming on to the levels of the corporate social responsibility. There is a hierarchy or the extent to which the business units they discharge the corporate social responsibility, and it is developed by Joseph Monsen. Starting from the lowest level, there are 4 levels of hierarchy. Number 1, obedience of the law. The managers feels that they are discharging the CSR by merely obeying the law. Number 2, catering to public expectations. The social responsibility goes beyond merely for obeying the law, in addition to abiding by the legal framework of the country. Social responsibility also caters to the public expectations from the business enterprises. The third is anticipation of the business and the public expectations. At a still higher level, the business firms not only fulfill what the society wants them to do, but they also anticipate the needs of the society and devise a program to fulfill these needs. The next is the creation of the public expectations. At the highest level of hierarchy, the managers not only cater to the public demands, but also set the standards of the social responsibilities and want the society to be benefited by those standards. The business enterprises are moving from lower to higher levels of this hierarchy. Now coming on to the historical perspective of the social responsibility, that is how it started. The expectations of the business firms as regards the CSR has gone 3 phases. Profit maximization. Historically, public viewed the business houses as a profit maximization, and they looked after only the interest of the owners. The social responsibility was discharged to extend the maximizing profits within the legal framework of the country. Then we have a trusteeship management, wherein during the later years the concept of the CSR got widened from mere satisfaction of the owner's interest to the interest of the other stakeholders also, like employee, customers, creditors, etc. providing good working conditions, good of the right quality, quantity, timely repayment of loans to creditors, etc. Merely viewed as the essential aspect of corporate social responsibility, the business managers were trustees of the business properly, holding it to the trust for the welfare of the society at large. Now, quality of the life management, a still wider perspective. Way back it started in 1960. It viewed the business enterprises as the institutions to remove all the social ills and promote the upliftment of the society. The business enterprises were supposed to change the quality of the business. Now, coming on to the philosophical perspective of the social responsibility. The first is the traditional philosophy. Similar to the profit maximization, the traditional philosophy defines the CSR as producing goods and services for society at a lower cost. The economist Milton Friedman is a advocated the concept of this philosophy. According to him, the business enterprises use the stakeholders' money. They should optimally use it to give them a reasonable rate of return on their capitals. Looking after the interest of the shareholders is the main responsibility of business according to traditional philosophy. The social problem have to be dealt by the business, the government rather than business enterprises. The next is your stakeholder philosophy. What does it mean? It is definitely an extension of the traditional philosophy, wherein the perspective was to just earn the profits, taking care of the capital who has invested in that organization. According to this philosophy, similar to trusteeship management, business enterprises must broaden their scope of the social responsibility to look after the interest of shareholders along with other sections of society like consumers, government, labor, unions, suppliers, etc. Then we have an affirmative philosophy, which is definitely very important, and it is similar to the third phase of the historical perspective, that is the quality of life management. Affirmative philosophy aims at the broadest spectrum of social responsibility. It holds that the managers are responsible to promote the mutual interest of firm and its stakeholders, including the general public. Not only should the managers cater to the present needs of society, they should also anticipate their future needs and integrate the needs of society with the needs of the organization. Now we are coming to the approaches of the corporate social responsibility, ranging from highest to the lowest to the highest degree of social responsibility. There are 4 approaches. The first is the social obstruction. Though few in number, the firms must follow this approach to social responsibility, do at least the possible to solve the social problems. They oppose the concept of social responsibility and do not consider the consequences of business decision on the social environment. The second is your social obligations. Though it is a very step ahead of the social responsibility, socially obligation firms should discharge the social responsibility to the extent that avoids any kind of government interference. The organization does everything that is legally required of it. A cigarette manufacturing company, for example, the cigarette smoking is injurious to health on the cigarette packets, but despite the product being harmful for health, it does extensive research to promote its sales. Then we have a social response. This is the third measure. The step further ahead from the social obligations, the firm performs the legal, ethical, social obligations only when they are asked to do so. They do not seek the social responsibility activities of their own, donations, charitable institutions when they are approached by these institutions. It is thus discharging of the social responsibility in response to the demand of the society at large. The fourth is the social contribution. The socially responsible firms which favor the concept of the CSR follow the social contribution approaches, wherein they seek opportunities to perform activities that contribute to the social goals. The firm identify where they can be of help to the society, granting scholarships, opening career counseling and the common examples of social contributions approach of the corporate social responsibility. All these approaches are not distinct in nature, they lie on a single continuum. The firms may follow 2 or more approaches at a different points of time. Now we are coming on to CII, that is the Confederation of Indian Industry, the UNDP Social Code of Business. This is most important for the students to understand, because this is the kind of a the code of conduct for the CSR. It is one of the finest example of CII. The following principles, they provide very important foundation to acquire the status of a good corporate citizens. What is this? First, the company should affirm the interdependence of the companies, its enterprises with the well-being and self-reliance of the community. This can be done by adopting an article of association on CSR that adopts the harmonizing of economic progress with social and environmental considerations. So, when you talk about the CII-UNDP code of business, as I told you that this gives you a very important foundation for you to be called as a social citizen, socially responsible good corporate citizen. In this, the first parameter is that you should always have this kind of a linkage in mind, that if you are doing the well-being for the corporate, you should also take care of the well-being of the society at large. There is a very close linkage between the two. They are not standalone, that is, you only take care of the society or you only take care of the people who are associated with you, that is the society at large. There has to be a very close linkage between the two, that is, whatever you do, whatever practices you adopt, you should see the social impact of that. The outcomes should not be negative as far as the society is concerned, and of course, this can be really done by adopting an article of association in this regard, that is a CSR, and of course, you have to harmonize your practices in relationship or in connivance with or in linkage with the social environmental considerations. That is, nobody is stopping you to earn, but you should earn in such a way that the social considerations are also taken care of, the legal considerations are also taken care of, the government institutions, the laws are also taken care of, and last but not the least, you should never ever go against the practices which is going to damage the environment, because it is the need of today that you cannot do anything, and you should do a very deep environmental analysis in this regard, that any of your practice should not be damaging the environment at large. So, this is the first corporate code of conduct which is given by CII-UNDP as far as the social code of conduct to be declared for you as a good corporate citizens. Thank you so much.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us this session too. Friends, you are requested to be with us as we are back after a short break, and we'll try to give more and more of knowledge. Till then, be with us, keep watching us. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, as you know that today we are talking on corporate social responsibility, and we are trying to give you more and more of knowledge so that you are enlightened with what corporate social responsibility is. Friends, for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Dr. Namita Rajput. Dr. Namita Rajput is Principal in Sri Aurobindo Evening College, University of Delhi. Friends, she is a prolific and a dynamic professor. If you wish to ask questions through her through this live session, then you can contact us through our toll-free number. Our number is 1800-110-430. I repeat, our number is 1800-110-430. Now I would like to welcome our guest, Dr. Rajput, once again. Hello ma'am, welcome back to the session.
So we were talking about the CII-UNDP Social Code of Business. This is a kind of a code which builds a foundation for any kind of an organization and to be declared as a good corporate citizens. With this, we had only one point discussed in the last session. Let me give you a recap. We are talking about here that whatever practices you do for the well-being of the corporate should also be in a way self-reliant for the community at large, and there is a very close linkage between the corporate practices and the well-being of the society at large. They are not standalone practices. There is a very good important interlinkages between these 2 points. So, with this note, we started with the concept that we have to adopt an articles of association in this regard, wherein if these articles of association is adopted as far as the corporate social responsibility is concerned, that advocates the harmonizing of the economic progress with the social and environmental considerations. So, it is very important to do that. The company should have a basic specific written policy statement of CSR, that is social and environment, which is in public domain and which is specifically exhibited on the website of the corporate. The company should have an explicit strategy on the social and environment issues, which can be seen in the form of annual work plan mainstreamed with its business process. The company should include the CSR as a part of its corporate communications, including the newsletters. There is a reporting on the CSR in the company annual audit report also. The company should have at least a senior executive under the CEO, that is the Chief Executing Officer responsible for CSR, and the managerial level officers tasked specifically with the social and environmental work. The CEO reviews the CSR program twice a year. The company should ensure the equal access to employment opportunities, promotion opportunities across genders and cultures through the policies and the programs. Not only this, the company should allocate the specific resources for CSR activities and have monitored systems to track the implementation process and track. The company should demonstrate its CSR by providing and enabling the environment for employees to volunteer. That includes the recognition and accounting for the volunteering time. The company should be committed to document its learning experience in terms of the human achievements, contribution to the community, and learning from all the stakeholders for sharing the local government and development agencies. The company is also known for its partnering in it, builds up the various development players in the fields as well to synergize all the available programs, opportunities to bring about holistic development of the local community. The company should expand the scope of the learning from each other in their role of being good corporate citizens by way of exchanging the data, views, implementation process, and even exchange the expert personnel wherever necessary. So, now coming on to the overall CII-UNDP Social Code of Business in one go. The first thing which the companies should have, they should have articles of association passed in this regard, so that the practices of the corporate should be in alliance with the benefit for the society at large. And of course, the corporate should have a written explicit policy in relation to corporate social responsibility, which is exhibited on the website of the company. Not only this, there should be specific persons who are specifically tasked in this regard to take care of the society at large, and the chief executing officer should be responsible to review the work of the people who have been designated the work in this regard at least twice a year, and they must report that these are the persons who have been doing this and this is the progress so far. because if the work is not monitored and reviewed, the people will go haywire and will not be taking this work responsible. So overall, the chief executing officer of the company should have the prime responsibility for the holistic development of the society at large, and of course keeping into consideration the economic aspects of the company also, because if the company is not economically sound, it won't be able to perform the functions for the society at large and should not be able to discharge the duties of the corporate social responsibility in the way it should be. And of course, when you talk about the equal access, the company should have this kind of a policy that there should not be any kind of a gender discrimination against the male female, the cultural discrimination, and you should have the fair and the just policies to take care of the upliftment of the society at large. And we should have a perfect monitoring tracking system which keeps the company going on the road of CSR and making it a big success. And whatever the company has been doing as far as the CSR is concerned, there should be a proper documentation, proper reporting, and the reports in relation to the CSR must be exhibited on the website of the corporate, and should also, the accounts related to it must be properly audited by a chartered accountant in this regard, so that nobody can question the expenses, because you have the documentation in relation to this, you have the proper empirical evidences to this effect, and they are exhibited on the website and they are properly audited. So overall, this has to be taken care of, that there should not be any kind of a problem as far as the documentation, reporting and auditing of the CSR is concerned. So all these policies, programs, bylaws should be kept in mind by all the corporates to make it a success, and these are the CII-UNDP code for the social conduct of the business of the corporates, and to be declared you as a good corporate citizen, etc. Then taking it forward, now we have the principles which are in relation to CSR. The first is the supply chain responsibilities. The company's social responsibility should cover all whom companies come in contact, irrespective of relationship, whether it is a formal or an informal, product or a service, graphic location, etc. These may include the suppliers, contractors, alliances, etc. The companies must do everything that can be promoting the CSR practices through their chain of operations. Then we have a stakeholder environment. There are so many stakeholders which are present in the organization, and it is the prime responsibilities of the companies to watch the interest of them, and they must be ready to engage into a dialogues with the stakeholders like workers, suppliers, local population, consumers, social organizations, public authorities, etc. This will help the companies know the concerns of the shareholders regarding the consequences of the corporate behavior. There should be an ongoing exchange of information between the company and its stakeholders regarding the company's CSR policies, where the companies arrive at a mutual accepted agreement about the company norms, values, rights and obligations. Then we have a transparency and reporting. There should be a complete transparency as far as the CSR practices are concerned, and must be reported in a very documented good manner, and should be exhibited on the websites of the company, so that whosoever wants to see that what is the work done as far as the CSR is concerned, they can just open the website, drop down the CSR icon and see who is responsible for what areas have been covered, what specific things have been done by them. So the companies must have a transparent and an open policy in respect to their policies as far as the social conduct is concerned. Reporting requires the companies to inform the stakeholders about the effect of their conduct and the consequences of these effects on the other stakeholders. Information can be made available to stakeholders through regular public reporting, assessment reports, annual reports, meetings, publication of data and consultation. Then should be an independent verification. The companies must verify that is internally monitoring its CSR policies, quality of the reports, management systems and the process. The verification should be carried out by the organizations that are not linked to the companies and have the full trust of the shareholders' involvement. The outcome of the verification procedures should be made public in a very proper manner. Now we are coming to the most vital part of the lecture. We are coming on to the models of CSR. The first is a philanthropic model. It asserts that CSR is about the companies making profits and donating a part of it to the charitable causes. The companies should pay their taxes regularly. The model is not against the companies making profit, but they use a part of it for their philanthropic and a social use. Now, what is a philanthropic model? It concentrates on this, that the companies may earn. There is no problem as far as the economic gains or the profits are concerned. But as a part of your CSR, you must spend about a certain percentage of your profits onto the social welfare activities, or as a donation or a charitable part to any organization which requires it. So, it is a kind of a philanthropic force which is very important for the organizations to be on a part of CSR road, and of course, to make it very effective as far as the social use is concerned, because you are making profits, that is okay, but you must do it, and you must have a philanthropic act in this regard and must use it for the social use. Now, coming on to the second model, that is the European model. What does this states? This model believes that the companies should operate their business in a very socially responsible way and invest in communities for social reasons that will benefit the company in the long run. The social responsibility is viewed as a part of the company's wealth creation process. It enhances the competitiveness of the business houses and maximizes their contribution to society. There is a growing concern, interest and awareness amongst the business enterprises to address the issues where the government have failed to provide a solution. Unilever is one of the finest examples where it has been able to support the sustainable fisheries when the national government could not provide a solution to depleting fish stocks. Though the model support the company's desire to contribute to the social goals, the business may not provide the right answers. In India, the surveys have been conducted that suggest that most companies do not see any direct relationship between the social responsibility practices and the financial success. The social responsibility agenda in India is based on philanthropy, though it is being increasingly influenced by the market liberalization and increasing exposure as far as the international competition is concerned. Now, we are coming on to the Indian models of CSR. We have two models, the trusteeship model and the stakeholder model. Let us explain one by one. The first is the trusteeship model. The move towards the social responsibility brings corporate management quite close to Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of trusteeship. Since in an average company, the management controls what does not wholly or at times even partly owns, it necessarily becomes a trustee of the capital. However, according to the Gandhian concept, even the suppliers of the capital should not treat the wealth as exclusive their own part, but something which they are holding in the trust for the society. It follows the ultimate analysis that the corporate management becomes the trustee not only for the shareholders, but also for certain broader interest of the society at large, like labor, consumer, government and even the larger part of the society. The word trustee has been used in the corporate management for a very long time. The directors of the company are traditionally viewed as the trustees of the stakeholders who use the corporate resources to maximize the profits. This is consistent with the normal sense in which the word trustee is used in the legal nomenclature. But when the Mahatma Gandhi spoke about the trusteeship, he meant not just a trustee in the legal sense, but a good deal wherein the moral grounds not covered by the law. The Gandhian theory of trusteeships makes no distinction between private and non-private property. All property is held in trust no matter who possesses it and what its nature or the quality is. Indeed, the theory of trusteeship applies not only to tangible or transferable property, but also to place of the power, position and to the intangible and non-transferable property. Now coming on to the second model, that is the stakeholder model. The stakeholder model has been defined in the stakeholder theory under the theories of CSR. What are the theories of CSR? The following theories link the field of business and society and discuss the issues related to CSR and the public policy. Let us have a look on this. The first is the feminist theory. The second is the stakeholder theory. Third is a social contract theory. Fourth is ethics and nature. And fifth is pragmatism. So, we will do it one by one. So, taking it as the first, the feminist theory, let us have what it has. This theory of CSR is also known as the ethics of care. It focuses on the traits that are valued in a very close relationship like sympathy, compassion, fidelity, friendship, etc. It rejects the concept of the moral reasoning as moral decision making. It separates the moral problem from social problems and draws the distinction between the moral decision makers and individuals who form a part of the society. The moral problems involves the rules and the rational calculations and ignore the interrelationship among the people. The feminist theory rejects the moral reasoning and focuses on impartiality. It advocates the respect for all individuals, for all relationships amongst them, and care, compassion, concern that these relationships involve. This theory points out that the feminist voice is different from a male voice of rights and justice, that is the moral theory. It favors the social cooperation and understanding of relationship with intimacy and care. It describes the model of parent-child relationship and communal decision making. The second is your stakeholder theory. The free man is the name famous behind the stakeholder theory of CSR. This theory describes the company's relationship with society. Companies should look after the interest of all those who are affected are known as stakeholders. Stakeholders are taking increasing interest in the activities of the business, and they see the companies have actually done good and bad in terms of its products and services and its impact on the environment and the local communities. According to Carroll, the stakeholder is any individual or a group who can affect or is affected by the actions, decisions, policies, practices, the goals of the organization. He is someone who has stake in the company's business and who affects the organization in some way. These stakeholders are consumers, suppliers, government, competitors, communities, employees, stakeholders, etc. The stakeholder requires some companies to take into account the interest and concerns of the various individuals, groups while taking the management decisions. This theory is, however, criticized for assuming number one, the stakeholders are individual entities and can be clearly identified by management. Their interest can be taken into account by management in arriving at optimal decision making. The Gilbert, Wicks and some other scholars considers this theory as a problem where individual self is fundamentally isolated from other selves. Each group of person is considered independent of its relationship with the other, and the companies are seen to be separated from their suppliers, consumers and external environment. The critics thus hold that this theory does not define who is or is not a stakeholder, because here we are talking about the individualism, not other selves. The criticism is, however, overruled because of the following arguments. First, despite the criticism, the proponents of this theory viewed that as the one who takes a relational view of the firm and focuses on the impact of decision making on multiplicity and diversity of relationship that the corporates have with their stakeholders. It focuses on the multipurpose nature of corporations that enrich their relationship with the stakeholders in various dimensions. This theory reshapes the direction of the company's vision not upon any specific stakeholders, but in the multiple diversity of interest of the various stakeholders together. It considers the moral dimensions a solution and makes decisions which are ethical and for the common interest of the people. It recognizes the interest of the stakeholders must be kept in mind by all the business enterprises when they are framing the business policy. It is in a way complementary to the companies responsible for the social obligations. However, it does not mean that companies should not earn profits. No profits will endanger the survival of the companies. This is a most important argument. The companies must earn and also discharge the social responsibility by catering to the interest of the various stakeholders at large. This will help not only in the survival but also in the growth of the companies, because if it is the prime responsibility for the corporates to take care of the society, but on the other hand it should earn enough to sustain those business practices. What is the social contract theory? Now, this is the third theory. This theory focuses on the changing contracts between the business and the society. It reflects the expectations of the society from the business houses, number one. Number two, the old contract between business and society was based on premise that the business is an economic unit. It aims at economic growth or the drive for the profits. It believed that economic growth ultimately leads to the social growth. This is a very important argument. The contribution to the society was made by providing goods and services which are desired by the society, and in doing so earning profits for themselves. However, this view of contract between the business and society is changing, and the modern social contract theory believes that the economic growth does not necessarily result into a social growth. In fact, increasing the desire for profits leads to the deterioration of the physical environment, unsafe working conditions, discrimination among the social groups, and many other social problems. One should not have a greed for the profits. These are termed at the social cost of the economic progress of the business houses. Then this is a very important cost which all the business corporate houses are giving for the society for making profits. The social contract theory desires the business houses to reduce their social cost by not only focusing on the economic growth but also focus on the social growth. It was stated in the Committee for Economic Development. Today it is clear that in terms of the contract between society and business, in fact changing in substantial and important ways. Business is being asked to assume a broader responsibility to the society that even before and to serve a wider range for the human values. Business enterprises in fact are being asked to contribute more to the quality of life, that is just supplying the quantities of goods and services. So, it is asking, not asking too much, it is asking for giving the goods and services on one hand and giving a quality of the life to the corporate citizens on the other. So, if we are into it and we are taking care of the society at large, and this is what the social contract theory is all about, and should take care of the society and the other sections of the society at large. The various laws and the regulations have been passed with respect to issue of the pollution certificates, discrimination that define the legal framework within the business houses, and they must operate. The corporates should not give most of the profits towards having greed to earn it. They should limit their greed, earn enough profits to sustain the social contracts. This is the prime obligations for the corporate houses to perform for the business houses, from the business houses for the society at large. The theory focuses on the social environment of business through two-way understanding of relationship between the business and society. It emphasizes on the business responsibility towards consumers, employees and other stakeholders, and also the responsibilities of the multinational corporations towards their home and the host countries. The next is your business and nature, ethics and nature. It describes the origin of ethical dimensions of a business. The business values constitute three clusters: economizing values, ecologizing and power aggrandizing. The interrelationship among these values roots from the social recognition of the business operations. The notion of profit maximization is thus a value of little importance, and the three value systems of economizing, ecologizing and power aggrandizing are seen as important and interrelated. The last is your pragmatism. This theory of the business ethics incorporates various trends that are found in the contemporary business ethics. it provides a philosophical ground for understanding what is moral, why and how we choose among various principles as an ongoing process of dealing with the change and the novelty. It does not see business decisions as applications of rules, but views the business decision as forces and guide the moral values. The moral rightness comes from the business recognitions of the human values and the business principles. This theory provides the norms for the communal life that define an understanding of self and community at large. It views the community as dynamic that requires continuous change in the company's operations in order to ensure the existence and the growth of the business enterprises. Now, CSR is like giving back to the society. The business of the company must have its priorities, directions of its developments, its philosophies, its objectives. But the main focus and the nucleus should be the corporate social responsibility at heart of all the business practices which they are doing. Business is an economic institution and it is operating in the social system. We must not forget this. Third, it influences the various elements in society and in turn are influenced by them. The social system is influenced by the way the business carries on its activities, and the business enterprises must therefore correspond to the social environment in which it operates. Traditionally, the business referred to as an institution which carried economic and commercial activity with a view to make profits. The profits are viewed as the business objectives of business and towards the measurable ends towards which the business activities are directed. Objectives must determine what the business wants you to go, and they are intended goals that describe and define the suggested direction of the planning efforts of the business also. In the past, the profit maximization was the basic objective of every firm, but now it has got a sea change. Now, in the heart of the business practices, we have the corporate social responsibility, and of course, making profits is one, but taking care of the society is also the major objective of the business. The modern concept of the business views the business as a subsystem of the social system, and in this context, we have observed. The last thing of today, our modern view of society is an ecological one. Ecology is concerned with the mutual relationship of human populations or systems with their environment. It is necessary to take the broader view because of which it influences the involvement of business are extensive, and the business cannot isolate itself from the rest of the society, and today the whole society is a business environment. So, keeping this into view, we have the multiple objectives and we should always try and achieve the objective which are primarily most important for the survival of the business at large. The CSR and the corporate social organizations are the need of today, and we must understand that at any cost the interest of the society cannot be marred. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving precious inputs to this lecture. Friends, you are requested to write to us at info.cec@nic.in. This is the ID where you can put your thoughts, your feedbacks as well as your questions too. We are going to meet again very soon and would be discussing more in our series on business ethics and CSR. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again.